That word.
I've always known that I'm not a...
We all know it. We've all heard it.
Senator, I'm a house... No, it's...
But what does it really mean?
And there's two sides. It's black people, there's...
Or perhaps more to the point, who does it really mean?
Hey, yo, where my niggas at?
I'm of dark skin tone. I'm also mixed race, male, working class, heterosexual, a student, a son, and a brother. Yet, above all this, there is one word that can be used both against me and somehow for me. For years, I've been perplexed by this. And now in these times, I believe the question is more important than ever before. Am I a nigger?
I first heard that word as featured in its original context in the film adaptation of 12 Years a Slave.
Nigga run, nigga flew, nigga tore his shirt in two. Run, run, a paddy roller get you. Run, nigga, run, well, you better get away.
It was a word used to strip an entire race of their humanity and a refusal to acknowledge any individuality.
Nigga run, run so fast over his head.
Over the years since becoming acquainted with the word, I have grown uncomfortably accustomed to it. I hear it in entertainment on YouTube. I hear it in conversations at my college. And I hear it in the gym. Ever playing, ever present. I feel confused. I'm told black power, black and proud, yet that word still grasps at our culture, our people. If I'm to make sense of all this, I cannot rely solely upon my own perspective to form a conclusion on this most vast of topics. I must seek input and insight from those who share my racial background, and consequently, whom that word most closely concerns.
Do you remember what your first encounter, your first experience with that word was, how you first heard it?
I mean, honestly, I can't remember exactly my first encounter of the word, but I can imagine that it would have been from me listening to music at the time, because growing up, my older brother listened to a lot of rap and hip-hop music, and it was normally quite revolutionary, quite stuff which would mention the word a lot. So my first encounter would have been secondhand listening from hip-hop music.
I remember in secondary school, quite a few kids, non-black kids in particular, used the word. I personally didn't use it. I didn't really know much about it when I was a lot younger. But when I started to hear it when I was 11 years old, I was quite confused, and I was like, what does this word mean? And then, I obviously grew up watching quite a lot of documentaries and films about the slave trade and stuff like that. And then I generally just understood, what the context of the word meant.
I heard it when I was in, I heard the word when I was in Ghana, and it was just playing on TV. And this was at quite a young age, so I didn't think anything of it. But growing up, obviously, it was literally everywhere. Some of my family members said it. It was on TV, black comedies, and stuff like that. So that's how I was mainly introduced to it. And then, yeah.
Do you remember there being any negative perception around that word among those in those countries?
No, it was just, they spoke it like there was literally no strings attached. I think here the media sort of plays a part in how people our age and who are black react to the word. So you grow up not liking the word, but over there, that's not the fundamental thing you're told when you grow up, like as a black youth. So they just go out and pick it up themselves from music and media and stuff and just say it.
So what does it come to mean to you now?
Well, being dual heritage, it's a big part of, like, you know, my Afro-Caribbean side, because obviously my ancestors were slaves. So knowing that that type of language was used to my ancestors, basically, you know, it hits home quite a lot to me. It's quite sensitive. Yeah, I just think it should be respected in that sense.
I mean, I feel like I can understand many different uses of it. There's two ways I'd use it as an artist, because I'd use it, first of all, the way it's been flipped as a term of endearment, and it's kind of, I see it as a way of taking power back into the word, and a lot of artists use it in that way. You can also flip it ironically to give people, it almost gives people a perspective when you say it into the microphone in an almost intimidating voice, because they understand what it feels like to be called that.
How much do you know about the origins of the word itself?
I know there's something to do with it being about negro, black, maybe. I'm not too sure.
The word has its origins, the English word has its origins from the Spanish word negro, but that word too, negro, originated from the Latin word niger, meaning black. It was only when the English interpretation of that word came to be that it was used solely as a derogatory term for black people. How do you feel about the word's use, considering its past context compared to the context it now holds in society?
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, but it goes to show like that if it could change from the beginning for something so simple to something that holds so much like pain and suffering and all that, then it can definitely change again.
Like the core of that word has been forgotten about, and I feel like that is really dangerous because it is a very sensitive word and it comes from a very vulnerable and really disgusting part of history that we should never forget.
And of course it can never be separated from that past context. You know, in my view, the word is effectively a primed weapon. Any time anyone wants to use that word as an offensive term, as a racist slur, it can be used as such because that is how it was defined all those years ago. You
got to think about it like hypothetically, like if you were to stand side by side with your ancestors and you were saying, oh, but everyone can say that word, you know, what the hell do you think they would say? They would not think exactly the same as you.
So you think context really has no bearing on the word's impact?
No, I don't think so.
I think that my ancestors will look down the line and be like, you know, wow, like my great-grandson is saying that word and it's not being said by a white person forced onto him, and he's in a better position than me, and, you know, stuff like that. So I think they'd more focus on the benefits than the actual, probably, negatives.
Do you think it's possible with that word to you know, give it another context, to give it another meaning, when that word itself is so intrinsically tied to racism?
Definitely we can. I mean, we could change it, but we don't want to. That's my opinion. Like, we could change how it's perceived, but we don't want to fully change everything. We've changed it to, you know, just benefit us, but like, you know, like bun everyone else, if you get what I mean. Like, forget everyone else and just leave it at us. So that's where we're comfortable, so it's all right there.
I don't feel the use of the N-word is the main issue with racism in our society. I think the main issue with racism in our society is the way that it was built off of slavery, and the fact that reparations have still not been made and we're still living in a structurally oppressive system. And the fact that it's not like a negative term anymore means it doesn't need to be used to separate people. Instead, it's being used to unify one race, and people don't need to see that as black people separating themselves from white people by saying you can't say it. It's more that they're coming together by saying we now have power over this word, it's not negative anymore.
So those terms almost become I guess, part of the culture.
Exactly.
I assume you've heard of the Kendrick Lamar incidents
Yes,
last year.
I have.
Wait. Am I not cool enough for you? What's up, bro?
Kendrick had a concert in which he was inviting various fans up to sing songs with him. For one song, he invited a white fan up to sing one of his songs, which featured the use of nigger several times. That fan did not sing the word with any malicious intent at all. However, of course that word is offensive. But then Kendrick invited someone who was white to sing that song. So you have to question his judgment in that.
I feel like it was quite clever, and I feel like low-key he might have known that like might have happened, and you know, he might have wanted to make a point about it because, you know, maybe it was something that he's been thinking about for quite a while. You know, that is a prime example of the mentality that some white people have. From what it just sounds like pure 100% ignorance. And even though, you know, white people might admire and really respect black figures in the music industry, they don't really respect, you know, that element of their history. You get what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, I have to say, to an extent, I feel bad for her because she may have not been thinking. At the same time, I've seen the video many times and I've heard what he said, and he stopped her after the crowd had a reaction, first of all, because he clearly saw other people were offended by the use of the word, which is the main importance you have to remember when you're using the word, is who's offended by it. In the same way, I'd blank out any swear word in front of kids. If you're going to do it in front of someone who it's going to offend or who it's going to be harmful to, then always blank it out. And in general, you should just be used to blanking it out.
Just sensitivity, you would say.
Indeed,
just
yeah.
realising the people you're among.
Definitely.
Kendrick Lamar, I like your music, makes top music, but he's stupid because the reason why is he knew the context of the situation. He knew that the word nigger is in his song. He knew that he has a massive white fan base. He knows also that all the white people in that crowd are also saying nigger with him. So I don't understand, like, he can't just stop the whole concert and go, all right, every single white person in this crowd, don't say the word, because they're still gonna say it. You can't prevent it.
And it's interesting what you say about, you know, there definitely being white people within that audience singing,
Yeah.
because that could be used as really a metaphor for where it's at, where that word is at with music right now. There is so much music featuring that word, and there are so many white people listening to that music.
Yeah, definitely.
Inevitably singing that word. So I guess the key issue here is the fact that an entire generation of white people have grown up with that word being a slang term, being a word that to them does not seem offensive at all. So how would you approach educating this new generation of white people as to why it's just not acceptable when all they've known is that word being slang?
I'm going to use Kendrick as an example. Like, his music is quite informative. It's quite, it tells a story. It just informs people about certain things. And I feel like, you know, very popular black rappers should maybe, you know, communicate that to their audiences and, you know, don't shy away from educating the people. And then it like opens up the conversation, should we even be using the word? Should black people even be using the word? And yeah.
I think the best way is to educate them on structural racism because, as I said, the reason it holds that power, the reason some people can say it and some people can't is because of the structure that we're living in. If they really understand the structural side of it instead of just, it's easy to say that that word would hurt people without understanding why it would hurt them. When you put all the context behind it, that's when people are a lot less likely to say the word because they really understand why it's hurtful coming from them.
I don't care about nigger, like, say what you want, bro. I don't care.
So it's just the act of
But it's the
stereotyping
act, like, yeah, like, I'm still definitely for black people, man. But, like, there's a difference in me saying I don't care about what you say to me and, like, just sort of, like, trying to degrade me, if you get what I mean. I don't get mad at specific words. If someone called me an idiot or something, I don't get angry at that. But I get mad at what they're getting at. I think as long as we have good intentions and are trying to remove it from what it used to be, then, you know, it's seen as some positive light.
My only thing is, just don't use the word. It's just a word that we don't say. It's not policing language, it's not political correctness, but it is common sense, and it is not being ignorant, and it's being respectful. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. Great. Thank you very much.
Maybe no single conclusion can ever be reached
Thanks for
on
the
something
questions
meaning
on the interview.
so
It's been
much
good.
to
Cheers.
so many. On one final note though, in a 1982 performance, Richard Pryor, a comedian notable for pioneering the use of the word in his field of work, shared his newfound perspective on the matter after a visit to Africa.
One thing I got out of it was magic I'd like to share with you. You know, it's like I was leaving and I was sitting in the hotel and a voice said to me, said, "Look around, what do you see?" And I said, "I see all colors of people doing everything, you know." And the voice said, "Do you see any niggas?" I said, "No." And I said, "You know why? Because there aren't any." And it hit me like a shot, man. I started crying and shit. I was sitting there, I said, "Yeah, I've been here 3 weeks. I haven't even said it. I haven't even thought it." And it made me say, "Oh my God, I've been wrong. I've been wrong. I got to regroup my shit." I mean, I said, I ain't gonna never call another black man a nigga.
If someone known for helping to reappropriate that word can come to such a conclusion, we must question ourselves. Is there any true need for that word? Who we are can never be summed up in one word. Because what we are, and always will be, is beautiful, creative, and infinitely diverse.